Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what might just be the single most chaotic day in NBA regular season history. A day where one shot, one win, one loss could completely flip the script for the entire postseason. All right, so let's set the stage here. We're talking about April 12th, 2026. The NBA did something kind of wild. They put all 15 games, all 30 teams, on the schedule for the exact same day. Think about that. Playoff spots, who gets home court, who even makes it to the play-in tournament. Everything was up for grabs. It was pure, unadulterated chaos. And the stakes? Oh, they couldn't have been higher. You had teams fighting tooth and nail to lock in a top 6 seed, to avoid that whole play-in mess. And then you had other teams just clawing to get into the play-in. That whole pressure cooker where seeds 7 through 10 go at it for just 2 final playoff spots. It was an absolute whirlwind. And what made it so crazy is that everything was connected. Seriously, a win for one team over here could completely change the fate of another team 1,000 miles away. It was like a giant puzzle with moving pieces. So the big question is, how did all those dominoes fall? Okay, to really get a feel for this pressure, we gotta zoom in on one specific game. Let's look at the Orlando Magic heading into Boston to face the Celtics. Now, for Boston, they were sitting pretty. The number 1 seed was already theirs. But for Orlando, man, this game was their entire season. The math for the Magic was so simple. You win, you're in the playoffs. That's it. But if you lose, oh boy, a loss would swing the door wide open for other teams to jump right over them in the standings. They could have tumbled all the way down to the 8th seed and right into that terrifying do-or-die play-in tournament. And this right here, this was the call you were hearing live on the broadcast. It just shows you, right? The margin for error was non-existent. We're talking about one single loss completely rewriting the story of their season. Now, you'd think Orlando had a huge advantage, right? Boston had the top seed locked up, so they rested all their big names. It looked like a golden opportunity. But Boston's bench unit, this group they call the Stay Ready crew, they clearly didn't get the memo. They came out and mounted this absolutely furious comeback in the third quarter and just never looked back. And it's not like Orlando just rolled over. Their star, Paolo Banchero, was phenomenal. He did everything he possibly could, put up a huge triple-double. But on the other side of the court, this guy, Baylor Shireman for Boston, just decided to have the game of his life. Dropped 30 points and led those Celtics role players to a performance nobody saw coming. And that final score, man, it just perfectly captures the absolute heartbreak of a day like this. The Magic gave it everything they had, but it wasn't enough. They fell short. And just like that, their fate was completely out of their hands. They had to sit and watch the other scores roll in, just praying for a miracle. So that's what's happening when your season is on the line. But what about the other half of the league? What happens when the playoffs are totally out of reach? Well, those teams are playing for something different. They're playing for pride, for developing their young guys, and sometimes they're playing for a little piece of history. Let's take a look at a perfect example of this: the Dallas Mavericks versus the Chicago Bulls. Now, both of these teams, their playoff hopes were gone a long time ago. But kind of funny how it works. That lack of pressure actually set the stage for something pretty special. Yeah, with absolutely nothing to lose, this game just turned into a track meet, an offensive explosion. It was basically a showcase for the future stars on these teams. And one rookie for the Mavs, well, he put on a passing performance that people are going to be talking about for a long time. So think about it. On a night with all this chaos happening all over the league, one single number in Dallas managed to cut through all the noise. And it represented a new record being set right then and there. This is what it's all about. Even in a game that on paper didn't matter, we got to see history being made. The Mavs won the game 149-128, but the real story was Ryan Nembhard. He didn't just have a good game, he carved his name into the Mavericks record books. What a way to end your rookie season, right? All right, so after all the buzzer beaters, the crazy comebacks, the career nights, the records being broken, the dust finally settled. All of those insane possibilities, all the what-ifs, they all just collapsed into one single final playoff bracket. Let's look at how the East shook out. It was like watching dominoes fall, one after the other. So Orlando loses, right? And at the same time, Philly gets a win. Boom. That sets up a huge 7 versus 8 playing game between them. Then you have Toronto winning against Brooklyn, which locks them into a first-round series with the Cavs. And Miami, they took care of business against Atlanta and punched their own ticket to the play-in. And this is what it was all for. We've got some certified heavyweight matchups now. Out west, the Lakers managed to weave through all that chaos and grab the 4th seed. That means home court advantage against a really tough Houston Rockets squad. And back in the East, that Raptors-Cavaliers series we just talked about, it's official. It's on.
You know, this is really what it all boils down to. That 82-game marathon is finally over. All that drama, all the ups and downs from this one single day, it all created this one final roadmap for the postseason. The stories are set, the matchups are locked, and the path to the championship is right there for the taking.
So now the real question begins. The matchups are set, the stories are written. Who is going to define these playoffs? Who's going to step up and make their mark? That's what we get to find out. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.